Hey everybody, it's Mr. Barbier back with another video. Today's video is the divisibility rules. So let's get right into it, all right? So this is the worksheet, and it says the divisibility rules make reducing fractions easier. Did you ever wonder how people could tell if something was divisible by a number just by looking at it? These rules are how they do it. If you memorize these simple rules, simplifying fractions will be super easy, but you have to know your times tables very well to use them effectively. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to, sugarcoat it. The bottom line is you cannot use these rules effectively unless you know very well your multiplication tables, all right? And here it is, right? So it is your priority. Make it a priority, ladies and gentlemen, to memorize your times tables until you know them as well as you know your name. It is that important, okay? It is that important, okay? So I'll make sure that this multiplication chart is available to you in PDF format for this assignment, all right? But the bottom line is, folks, don't rely on this. Don't use this as a crutch. Take the time, because it is very important for you to memorize your multiplication facts from 1 to 9, okay? Now, because anything past that is not really necessary. I mean, obviously 10s, you're just counting by 10, but don't bother memorizing 11, 12, et cetera, et cetera. You need to know your multiplication facts from 1 to 9, and do also memorize your perfect squares from 1 times 1, which is 1, 2 times 2, which is 4, all the way down to 15 times 15, which is 225. Okay, so you should know your perfect squares, right? These boxes in yellow. And you should know by heart your multiplication facts from 1 to 9 memorized. Okay, they must be memorized, plain and simple. Otherwise, you will not be able to do anything else in math moving forward. You will not be able to do anything with fractions. You will not be able to do algebra or geometry, right? You need to know your multiplication facts very, 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 very well, okay? That being said, until you memorize them, I'll allow you to use this multiplication chart to help you when you get stuck. Okay, let me say it again. To help you when you get stuck. But you shouldn't have it right next to you as you do this assignment, because you're crippling yourself by doing that. All right, so let's take a look at the assignment. Now, these are the divisibility rules right here. All right, and we're going to look at each one very quickly, and then we're going to do the work on the back of it. So what's the divisibility rule for the number 2? Well, it's very simple, okay? 2 can divide into any number that is even, all right? Very simple. How do you know whether a number is even? If the number ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, okay? The last digit, that's the key. The last digit has to be a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, okay? The divisibility rule for 3, a number is divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits adds up to a number that is in the 3 times table, such as 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. These are called multiples of 3. Okay, so we talked about this during the live session. For those of you that were not available during the live Zoom session, it's very simple. You can tell whether any number, such as 423, can be divided by 3 evenly. And it's not because it ends in the number 3. Okay, please don't say that. It's because if I take this number 423 and I add the digits that make up the number. So if I add 4 plus 2, which is 6, 6 plus 3, which is 9, because 9 is in the 3 times table, because 9 is a multiple of 3, okay, or is divisible by 3, which means the same thing, then 423 is divisible by 3, meaning that this number can be divided by 3 without a remainder, simply because I added the numbers together. Okay, now for some of you who are hearing this for the first time, you're thinking that can't be, right? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you add the numbers that make up a number? It's a math trick, guys, and it actually works. Okay, it actually works. So if you want to see whether 3, the number 3, can divide into any number evenly, just add the digits that make up the number. Now, of course, students always ask me this question, Mr. Barbie, does that trick work for every number? No, it does not. It only works for the number 3, and as we were going to see, it also works for the number 9. Okay, so that trick works for 3 and for 9 only. Okay, don't tell me that, oh, if I add a number, if I add, like, for example, 9, like say the number is 91 and I add 9 plus 1 and I get 10, or I can divide it by 10. No, it's that only works with the number 3. Only works with the number 3 and the number 9. That's it. Okay, this little math trick, and it works like magic. It's really great. We're going to practice it later. Okay, how do you know whether 4 can go into a number evenly? 4 can go into any number, or we say a number is divisible by 4 if the last 2 digits are a multiple of 4. So let me explain that another way. We know that 2 can go into any number if the last digit, meaning the very, very last digit, is a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. But with the number 4, you have to look at the last 2 digits, not just the last digit, okay? And it says here also, another way is if the number can be cut in half or divided by 2 twice. Let's look at this example. 212 is divisible by 4 because the last 2 digits are 12, which is a multiple of 4, okay? It can also be cut in half twice. So meaning we can cut 212 in half twice. If you cut 212 in half once, right, you get 106. Now, if you cut 106 in half, you get what? Okay, somebody listening? Okay, very good. Yes, 53, right? 53. So, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. So, but getting to this trick, to keep it simple, look at the last 2 digits, and that will tell you if the number can be divided by 4 evenly. Okay, there it is. Now, let's move on. 5, very simple. You all know this already. A number is divisible by 5 if it ends in a 5 or a 0, okay? And that's obvious because if you look at the 5 times table, every number in the 5 times table ends in either a 5 or a 0, right? So you know that a number is divisible by 5 if it ends in a 5 or a 0. For example, 435 is divisible by 5 because it ends in a 5, okay? If it was 430, then that's also divisible by 5, okay? Because it ends in a 0. Let's look at 6. A number is divisible by 6 if it is divisible by both 2 and 3. Now, folks, that makes sense if you think about it, because what is 2 times 3 equal to? If you multiply 2 times 3, you get what? You get 6, right? So what this trick is saying is, if I take a number like 252, and I ask myself, well, can this number be divided by 2? Yes, it can, right? Because it ends in an even number. The last digit is a 2, right? We know that any even number ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Now, is this number also divisible by 3? Well, let's do the trick that we learned up here, okay? What's the trick? You add the numbers up, okay, to see what the sum is. Well, let's add them. What's 2 plus 5? Okay, someone just said that's 7, right? What's 7 plus another 2? Okay, that's 9. And question, is 9 a multiple of 3? Is 9 in the 3 times table? Yes, it is. It's right there, okay? So that means that 252 can be divided by 3, and it's also divided by 2 evenly, which means it can be divided by 6. Okay, so that's how we know whether 6 can go into a number. If the number is divisible by 2 and it's also divisible by 3, therefore it is divisible by 6. Okay, and as it says here, right, 252 is divisible by 6 because it is even, so therefore 2 can go into it, and its digits add up to 9, which makes it divisible by 3, so therefore it is divisible by 6. Now, we're going to go from 6 to 9. Now, you're wondering, wait a minute, Mr. Barbie, what happened to 7? What happened to 8? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you look it up online, there are divisibility rules for 7 and for 8. But the reason why, first of all, the one for 7 is very impractical, in my opinion. In my opinion as a math teacher, I don't think you'll ever really use the divisibility rule for 7. It is way too complex and way too complicated. Don't worry about that. In my opinion, it's not really practical to use. Now, for 8, it's not as impractical as it is for 7, but like I'll give you one trick for the 8s that I think is probably the best trick for 8, and that is, you see how for 4 I said that if you can cut the number in half or divide it by 2 twice, then you know 4 can go into it. So 8 is similar. For 8, if you can divide the number by 2 3 times, not twice, but 3 times, then 8 can go into it. All right, so that's one little trick that I can show you really quick, just in case you want to use it. But I don't know if it's something that you want to use, but let's try something. So for example, say I have the number 840. Okay, so if I can cut this number in half 3 times, then I know that 8 can go into it. And if I can't, then 8 can't go into it. So divide this number in half once. What do we get? Okay, so you know that 8, if you cut that in half, you get 4, right? And if we cut 40 in half, we get 20, right? So that's one division by 2. Now let's divide by 2 again. So can I cut 42 in half or 420 in half? Well, look at it this way. If I cut 4 in half, which is like really 400, then I get 200. And cut 20 in half, and I get what? 10. Now let's see if we can divide this one more time by 2. 200 cut in half is what? 100. And 10 cut in half is what? 5, right? So there it is. So because I was able to divide 840 in half 3 times, that tells me that this is also divisible by 8. To me, this is the best trick to use if you want to see whether 8 can go into a number. Let me pick an easy one so you can get the idea. What if I say, for example, 48? Now, again, you should know that 48 is in the 8 times table, but let's say we don't, okay? So cut 48 in half once. What do you get? Okay, I just heard someone say, Mr. Barbier, that would be, if you cut 4 in half, you get 2, and if you cut 8 in half, you get 4. That's correct, 24. Now let's cut 24 in half. Well, if I cut 2 in half, I get 1, and if I cut 4 in half, I get 2. That is correct. Now, what if I divide 12 in half? Well, everyone I think knows that 12 just cut in half gives you 6. All right? So therefore, 48 is divisible by 8 because I was able to divide it by 2 3 times. And I want you to see why that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. Why does that make sense? Because 2 times another 2 times another 2. Well, what's 2 times 2? Someone just said 4. What's 4 times another 2? Okay, that is 8. Do you see that? So if I multiply 2 times itself 3 times, I get 8, right? That's the same thing as 2 to the 3rd power, right? So if I multiply 2 times itself 3 times, I get 8. And therefore, if I divide a number by 2 3 times, that's the same thing as me dividing the number by 8. Same exact thing, right? So that's a little trick for the 8 to see if a number is divisible by 8. I just want to show you that even though it's not on your divisibility rules worksheet, okay? Okay, as you know, I hate to deny students knowledge, so whenever I can give you some knowledge, I'll give it to you. All right, now let's continue. So we looked at the divisibility rules for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's look at 9. Now 9 says, a number is divisible by 9 if the sum of the digits adds up to a multiple of 9, such as 9, 18, 27, 36, and so on. This rule is similar to the divisibility rule for 3, as we said earlier. Okay, let's look at this example. 243 is divisible by 9 because the sum of the digits, sum means the answer in addition, okay? The sum of the digits adds up to 18, which is a multiple of 9. Multiple, again, meaning that 18 is in the 9 times table, all right? So this trick will work anytime you want to know whether 9 can go into a number evenly, all right? And finally, we have 10, and this is a very easy one as well, probably the easiest one. A number is divisible by 10 if it ends in a 0. Very simple. This rule is similar to the divisibility rule for 5, okay? So if a number ends in 0, you know that 10 can go into it. For example, 730 is divisible by 10 because it ends in 0. All right, so you have this to do for homework, okay? We have, and notice the first example is done for you. The example is 10. What numbers can divide into 10 evenly? Another way to say that, ladies and gentlemen, is which of these numbers are factors of this number? Okay, it's another way to look at it. A factor is very simple. Factor means what numbers multiply to give you this number. Well, 2 multiplies by 5 to give you 10. So they are factors of 10, okay? You could also say that 10 is divisible by 2 and 5 because 2 can go into 10 evenly, 5 can go into 10 evenly, and 10 is a factor of itself because 10 can go into 10 once, right? So that's what this is about, right? Notice I did the example for you. I circled the numbers for you. You now will take these problems and circle the numbers that can go into that number evenly. Okay, let's look at this first example, first problem together, all right? And just go down the line. So let's use our divisibility rules. What's the rule for the divisibility rule for 2? Well, we know that 2 can go into a number if the number is even. How do we know if the number is even? Look at the last digit, right? Well, the last digit is a 5. Is 5 even? No, right? So I'm not going to circle 2. Let's look at 3. Now, folks, I'm going to be very clear. You should know that 15 is in the 3 times table. But let's say you didn't remember that. Let's do the trick that we just learned. The divisibility rule for 3 is very simple. We take this number and we add the digits together. 1 plus 5 is what? Okay, I just heard someone say 6, Mr. Barbier. Very good. So since 1 plus 5 is 6, ask yourself, is 6 in the 3 times table? Yes, it is. It's right there because 3 times 2 is 6. Therefore, 15 is divisible by 3. So you would circle 3 here. Now, 3 times what gives me 15? 5, right? As a matter of fact, 15 ends in a 5. And I know that 5 can go into any number that ends in a 5 or a 0. So circle 5 as well. 4, well, if you think about your times tables, you know that 15 is not in the 4 times table, okay? Also, I cannot cut 15 in half twice. So 4 is not, a factor of 15. And 6, no, because, right, we know that 15, again, is not in the 6 times table, so that's not going to work. All right, it's also not an even number. Remember, 6 can only go into numbers that are even and divisible by 3, okay? And 9 and 10 obviously aren't going to work either. Let me do one more from the homework sheet to help you out a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to ask a student to pick one of these numbers. Pick one, we'll do it together. Okay? Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, do the hardest one. Of course, see, I was reading your mind. I knew you were thinking 4,518. I knew you were thinking that. Mr. Barbier, that's too hard. I can't do it. Okay, guess what? I'll give that one to you. Let's do it together. All right, let's do it. And let's just literally go down the line, folks. Just go down the line. If you forget what the rule is, flip back. Read the rule again to refresh your memory. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, let's go. 4,518. Is it divisible by 2? Let me hear someone say yes or no. Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, I think so. Okay, why do you think so? Because it ends in 8, and 8 is an even number? You are correct. Very good. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to circle the number 2. Very, very, very good. What else? Let's go down the line. Is this number divisible by 3? Can someone tell me how to do that? Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, the rule for 3 is you add the digits up to see if the sum is in the 3 times table, right? Yes. Yes, that's the correct process for the divisibility rule of 3. So let's do that. What is 4 plus 5? Somebody. Okay, someone just said 9. Very good. What's 9 plus 1? Someone just said 10. And now it's 10 plus 8. 18, right? So question, is 18 in the 3 times table? Is it a multiple of 3? Look back at your multiplication chart in case you don't remember. Here's my 3 times table. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Ah, there it is, 18. So guess what? That means that this number is divisible by 3. You're going to circle 3. Okay, now what about 4? Who remembers the trick for 4? Okay, so someone just said, Mr. Barbier, you said that the trick for 4 is you either cut the number in half twice or look at the last 2 digits to see if it's in the 4 times table. Well, what are the last 2 digits? Again, not the last digit. Don't say 8. Don't say, okay, 8 is in the 4 times table, so therefore, no. The last 2 digits are what? 18, right? Look at the 4 times table. Is 18 in the 4 times table? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Oh, nope, it's not. Therefore, this number is not divisible by 4. Okay? What about 5? Can someone tell me? Can 5 go into this number? Okay, someone just said, no, Mr. Barbier, because 5 can only go into numbers that end in a 0 or a 5. Correct. So 5, we're not going to circle. What about 6? What do you think, somebody? Okay, someone said, well, isn't a number divisible by 6 if 2 and 3 can go into it? Didn't we just say that because this number is even, 2 can go into it? And because we added the numbers up, the digits up, and we got 18, 3 can go into it. So if 2 can go into it and 3 can go into it, that means 6 can go into it because 2 times 3 is 6, right? Yes, that is correct. So ladies and gentlemen, just to keep it simple, every time you circle 2 and 3 for this worksheet, you can also circle 6. Plain and simple, all right? Because if 2 can go into a number and 3 can go into a number, 6 can also go into the number. So we're going to circle 6. What about 9? Okay, someone's saying, Mr. Barbier, I think 9 is going to be circled too because we added 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 8, and we got 18. And if I'm not mistaken, 18 is also in the 9 times table, right? 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. There it is. So yes, 18 is also a factor of this number, 4,518. We can also say this number is divisible by 9. Yes, circle the 9. And what about 10? Okay, that's easy, right, guys? This number does not end in a 0, therefore we're not going to circle 10. Look at how easy that was, all right? I know many of you are thinking this is the hardest problem because the number is really big, and you just proved to yourself that it's not hard at all. Okay, math is only hard when you don't get something. When you get it, it's easy. So folks, there it is. You are going to do the rest of these by yourself, and I know you can do it. Okay, just circle the digit that's divisible by that number. Okay, circle the number that can go into this number evenly. It's that simple. It's that simple, using the divisibility rules. All right, guys, you got this. I know you got this. I have faith in you. Keep putting in that effort, keep putting in that work, and I will see you for the next video. Take care and don't ever give up. Do your work. If you have trouble, you know how to reach me. Take care.